You know something is getting out of hand when you open YouTube for just one quick movie. And somehow every single recommendation is Sonia, Uche, and Maurice Sam staring at each other like their lives depend on it, loudly crying face like at this point. It's not even coincidence anymore, it's a full-blown takeover, and people are starting to ask the same question over and over again. How many movies have these two actually done together in 2026 alone? Because the number is starting to feel illegal. One week you see a new upload, where they're lovers fighting family pressure, next week boom another one where they're enemies turned lovers. Then suddenly, there's a heartbreak story where one of them is crying in the rain, and somehow it still trends, and you're just there wondering if Mollywood secretly cloned them, because how are they everywhere at the same time? Flushed face, and the craziest part is it's not just quantity, it's consistency. Like these movies are not random throwaways, they're pulling views fast, like within days you're seeing hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of views, and the comment sections are always the same energy, these two again. Why are they always together? I'm not complaining though, eyes, and that's where the real conversation starts, because people aren't tired. They're actually hooked. Loudly crying face, and let's be honest, this kind of streak doesn't just happen by accident, because in Nollywood, especially on YouTube, there are plenty actors dropping content daily, but not everyone gets that same attention back to back like this. So when two people keep showing up, and every single time it trends, you already know something deeper is going on. Either the audience is emotionally attached, or the producers have figured out a formula that just works every single time, or maybe it's both. And from what we're seeing in 2026, it's clearly both, because the Sonia, Uche and Maurice Sam combo has basically become a guaranteed click at this point. Like, you don't even need to overthink the title. Once people see their faces together, they already know it's going to be drama, romance, betrayal, tears, and one scene that will have everybody pausing and rewinding like, wait, did she really just say that? Loudly crying face. Now, if you actually try to count the number of movies they've done together this year alone, that's where things start getting funny, because fans have been trying to track it, and every time they think they've reached the number, another movie drops out of nowhere like surprise. Some people are saying it's already past 10, others are pushing it closer to 15, and the wildest takes are saying it might even be more, depending on how you count cameos and overlapping releases, because remember, these movies are not all filmed this year, some were shot earlier, and just being released now, which makes the streak look even crazier, like it never ends. And you'll notice something else too, the themes keep evolving, but the chemistry stays exactly the same. Like 1 minute they're playing innocent lovers, next minute there's tension, betrayal, anger, then reconciliation, and somehow it still feels fresh every single time, which is honestly not easy, because repeating the same pairing over and over can easily get boring if there's no variation. But for some reason they keep finding ways to switch it up, whether it's the storyline, the setting, the emotional tone, or even just the way they interact in certain scenes. Like sometimes it's soft and romantic, other times it's intense and dramatic, and fans eat it up either way. Loudly crying face. Another thing people can't ignore is how fast these movies circulate. Like, you'll see one channel drop a film, then within days another channel drops a completely different story with the same two actors, and before you even finish watching that one, a third pops up, and now your entire feed is basically a Sonia x Maurice marathon, without you even planning it. And that's when you realize this isn't just a streak, it's dominance. Like, they're literally controlling a whole section of Nollywood YouTube right now, and no one else is matching that frequency with the same level of attention collision. And of course, once something like this starts happening, the internet does what it always does. It starts speculating. Loudly crying face. People begin asking questions, like, are they choosing to work together this much, or are producers just pairing them because they know it guarantees views? Is there some kind of agreement behind the scenes, or is it just pure coincidence that their schedules keep aligning again and again and again? And you already know how fans think once they see two people together. Too often the conversation slowly shifts from "they act well together" to "wait, are they actually together?" Because let's not pretend like the chemistry isn't adding fuel to that fire. The way they look at each other in some of these scenes, the timing of their dialogue, the emotional delivery, it's the kind of thing that makes viewers forget they're watching acting for a second and start questioning reality. Like, this one no be ordinary again, oh eyes. And even though there's no confirmed relationship, people are still reading into every detail, every behind-the-scenes clip, every interview, every social media interaction, and connecting dots that may or may not even exist. But that's just what happens when a pairing becomes this consistent. It stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling intentional. Loudly crying face. But beyond all the speculation, there's also a business side to this that can't be ignored, because if something is working this well, you don't stop it, you double down on it. And that's exactly what it looks like is happening. Producers see the engagement, the views, the comments, the shares, and they're like, yeah, we're not breaking this combo anytime soon, skull. And honestly, can you blame them? Because in an industry where attention is everything, having a duo that consistently delivers that level of attention is basically gold. So of course they're going to keep casting them together again and again, until the audience says stop. And right now, the audience is doing the exact opposite. They're asking for more loudly crying face. And then there's the replay factor, which is another reason this streak feels insane, because it's not just about new releases. People are going back to older movies they've done together and rewatching them like it's a series, connecting different stories in their heads, creating their own timelines. Like, this one feels like a continuation of that other one, even though they're completely separate films, and that kind of engagement is rare because it means the pairing itself has become bigger than any single movie. It's now a brand on its own. 100 points at this point. You can literally predict how things will go. Whenever a new one drops, first the thumbnail catches attention, then the comments start flooding in before people even watch fully, then clips start circulating on TikTok and Facebook, then the emotional scenes get reposted, then the debate begins about whether this is their best movie yet or not, and before you know it the cycle repeats with the next release like clockwork, and it just keeps going. Loudly crying face. And what makes it even more interesting is that despite how often they appear together, fans are still noticing little details in each performance, like the way their expressions change in certain scenes, the way they handle emotional moments differently depending on the story, the subtle shifts in how their characters connect. And that's part of why it hasn't become boring, because even though it's the same two faces, the dynamics are exactly the same every time. There's always something slightly different to focus on, something new to talk about, something new to react to, and that